Hi friends, it's Alexa. Here's another video of me working at my garden plot. This is kind of a boring video, but I used it to figure out the video editing software. Side note, I was getting these seeds in my socks. It was going through the mesh of my sneakers and then into my socks and getting stuck in them. They were tiny and super hard to get out. I did a lot of this one-legged dancing with my shoe off over the past several visits. I realized it was dandelion seeds. So you can kind of see there's a whole ton of dandelions in right behind me at the edge of the black fabric. Now the grass had been cut this day, but the seeds were everywhere. They get into the fabric of like your shoes and your socks, whatever. Anyway, it's all right. It is past the season for them. They are one of the first flowers to grow and flower in the spring, and they are very important as part of the ecosystem for all sorts of bugs, bees, butterflies, etc. in terms of food for the animals and insects that are just coming out of hibernation from the winter. Quite frustrating when every time you turn around there's more dandelion seeds in the middle of the plot you just weeded. But this is my system. I'm sure there are people who will make fun of it and say I should have done this, I shouldn't do it this way, do it a different way, get a rototiller, whatever. This entire strip, the 6-foot wide strip, was plowed by a tractor. I think they did it probably about 3 weeks before this video was done, and you can see how many weeds have already grown in that strip between the two pieces of black fabric. The ground, however, has not settled back down, so it's still quite easy to actually dig and turn over, except on the very edges where the tilling from the tractor didn't always get some of the grass when it was a really chunky thing of roots. But the middle section is easy. So I turn over a row. I put it on the already, when I have already weeded section, I put it on the already weeded section. It makes it easier when I move to the next line to dig. Then I break it all up with my little 3-prong trowel. The 3-prong trowel is also really great when it is a big clump of grass with roots. I can hook it into the grass roots, lift it up with a trowel, shake it, and shake all the soil off, and then sort of throw the stuff away. You can see I'm definitely throwing this stuff on either side of the plot. You can see it all in the bottom left corner of the screen here. There's some there. There's no green bin. If there was, I would be putting it into a bin. But there isn't, and at the end of the day it's just going to decompose. Some of it might actually reroot where it is and keep growing, so either way the nutrients are going to stay in this field area for those items and those plants. This section had a lot of grass in it. You can see I'm really trying to get through it. That's one of the real edge sections where there was quite a bit of grass. I've also found quite a few really big stones. I think it was in the very first video I found a massive stone. I don't have that, and honestly it's repetitive of what you're seeing right now, so I didn't want to make a 20-minute video just of me digging up the garden and doing this with the spades, slicing up the soil and whatnot. But I found it pretty... It's what I can do. With my physical capabilities, with what I enjoy, and what I want. The more I can get out, the more weeds I can get out of this section, the absolute better in the long run. Last year I lost all of my pumpkin, watermelon, cantaloupe, and butternut squash plants because the weeds got out of control. It basically rained like every day for a couple of weeks, and it was always raining right after work when I had time to go to I'm not going to go out in the rain. It's not that important to me. Maybe this year because I'm putting a lot more effort into it at the beginning here. But the reason I have the fabric on the edges is also because of last year. Every time they mow the grass in between these garden plots, they will leave a few inches because they're like, oh, is that the grass or is that their plants? Okay, thank you. Except then the next time they left another couple of inches, and then eventually it was a foot and a half of just unmowed grass, a foot and a half high, and it all just sort of encroached into, scattered all the seeds and everything into where my plants were. So this year we've put the fabric down. The north row of fabric, which is at the top of the screen, I'm going to cut holes in that now that the stuff underneath it is dead, and I'm going to plant some sunflower seeds in there along that. It's just finding the time to do that. So here I am measuring with a measuring tape, and then these green stakes, like the one I'm holding right now, I like those. They're super cheap. They're very handy. They're also 3 feet long exactly, so you can see 2 of them fit. I have 6 feet of the plowed area, and then I have 2 foot on either side of it with the black fabric. Just trying to clean up the edge there a little bit, and I don't want to leave a big pile of weeds, so I was sort of like moving stuff out, spreading it out so it can decompose a little faster. It'll also get mown. The next time it's mown, it'll break it up and it'll be fine. This is the rockiest section I have had. This is my 3rd year, and this is the 3rd area. Like, I've had a different 2 plots every time. There are so many rocks in this. I am constantly pulling them out. You can see this little pile in the bottom of the screen on the fabric there. Now, I like some rocks. I use them to mark where my rows are, or at the other end, I actually put them around. You'll see this a little bit later, where I plant the acorn squash and the pumpkin seeds. And that way, before they grow, I know where they are to water them. Here I am planting 10 seeds in each of these 3 little rows I made. I, full disclosure, did not look at my little chart that I had made to plan where all of my things are going to be planted. I actually gave myself 3 feet on that chart, and the 4th little row, the original row I put in, that was the 2 foot mark. Now, I was counting the seeds left and there were only 10, so I said, screw it, I'm going to go plant these as well, and I used that 2 foot mark. I was thinking I was going to have to squish the carrots, which will be the next thing I plant in sequence along here. Well, spoiler alert, I only got about 12 plants out of those 40 seeds that you just watched me plant. 12. And I don't know if some of that is the quality of the seeds. I bought the package last year in a set of seeds, and I had a different set of corn. And then I also don't know if I just didn't water them enough. So corn does need a lot of water, and you'll see me in a minute use a watering can. The hose had not been put out, and it's incredibly, incredibly heavy. So it's not something that I have an easy time moving around. It's like an industrial grade 200 foot. Like, it's so heavy. I can't even express to you. So I used the watering can instead, and I used their watering can because I didn't have mine with me, and it doesn't have the shower head typey thing that goes on the nozzle normally. So it's just a stream of water. These furrows that I'm making, I actually got this idea from another garden here. I'm not sure whose garden it is, but I go and I look at them. She planted the seeds and then mounded the earth up. So when you water it, it's not going to go right on the plants, which are at the top. You can water it heavily in the furrows. Obviously, I'm not really doing that here because I really need the seeds to get wet. But in the long run, having these little mounds, when it rains really heavily, you're also not going to get a ton of water on your plants, like sitting there, potentially causing rot. I did not do the best job in mounding these up, so what I did today, that'll likely be in the next garden video, it's quite flat again. I had to basically weed this entire section completely again, though not in the same, it wasn't quite as hard as this. So here we are. I don't know if it's 1, 2, or 3 days later, but it was probably 2 days. I'm watering the corn. I do have my watering can, which makes it, I feel a little better. When the water is dispersed, it also doesn't make the soil move as much. But here we are now at this end. Again, I'm using one of those little green sticks. Now it doesn't look it, but it is in alignment with the white post. That is the 20-foot mark. So there's about, I don't know, 6 inches of fabric after that, as you can see there. So I think I do actually weed to the end of the fabric, which is a little bit past the end of my 20 feet. But here we go. This is how I start it. I just kind of mark where I'm going to or from, and then I just start a row. In this instance, I obviously don't have any pre-weeded section to put the stuff on top of, so I'm having to put it on a section I still need to weed. I don't really like that because it is kind of frustrating. I think that was me digging out a stone and the camera shut off. So I realized a little bit later and restarted it, and you can see we've done about half of the 3 foot I want to get done today. Same process. I'm genuinely sure people will make fun of me doing it the way I'm doing it, but I don't care. It works for me. I hope it's worth it, although getting back from my vacation and finding I needed to basically reweed everything, that was a little disheartening. I was hoping it wouldn't have been quite so bad. It was expected. The worst parts that need the most weeding are the parts where I have seeds, because that's the parts I have been watering. So the parts where I haven't watered anything, those were super easy to weed today. The ground is still super loose. It hasn't compacted down yet. The water genuinely sort of melts the soil into mud, and then it clumps back together again and gets pretty hard. So it was so hot this day. It was the morning, but my goodness, you can see I have that SPF shirt on, and I actually put the hood up because my neck was getting sore from the sun, and then I put the hat over the top of it to keep my face from being burnt to a crisp. Just going through this. I think at this point I was digging out 2 rows at a time, so you can see I'm working on the stuff from the first row, but then there's a whole bunch more, and now I've sort of grabbed that from the second row. These gloves are incredible when I am digging or raking. They're not very good for actually pulling out little weeds, so I bought some new gloves this morning, which you'll see in a future video. So here I am putting in the acorn squash. I dug 3 holes and I put 2 seeds in each hole, again because they might not all grow and you can always thin them out. So the 2 in the hole closest to us did not grow, but the other 2 did. I'm not sure if I'm going to just try and train them to grow in sort of separate directions or not, but we'll see. I might dig up some of the seedlings and move them over when they're a little bit bigger. So here I am on the other side, putting in 3 holes for the pumpkins. Again, it's 2 seeds in each hole, and then just covering that up. Getting close to the end of this video, I'm going to go ahead and water these. I did find an easier way of doing the fade out and fade in, as you just saw in that transition. I was getting so frustrated. I started this video from scratch the other day after getting home. I tried working on it while I was away. It didn't work. And then I'm rewatering the corn plants as well, but hopefully the next video goes a little more smoothly for me. Definitely learning stuff. Thank you for being here. Keep it real, folks. See you on the next one.